Hello, all. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to this new series of learning where we are going to learn today how to Dockerize a Spring Boot application. Now, you all might be wondering, what is this? I mean, there's lots of content already available which tells, how to Dockerize a Spring Boot application. But how is this, content going to be different, right? um, we know, majority of the content that we see onto the online, we see that, people do the build the spring boot application onto the local host or your host machine, and you copy that generated artifact, whether it's in jar or the var, into the image or to the container. Right now, that's what I feel like, we have defeated the whole purpose of dockerization, because now there is a guarantee the on the host machine where you have generated this war file or this artifact might not, when you have been transported it to the image or to the container, there's no guarantee, or not guarantee, it might, I would say, it might fail, because the environment, the kind of environment that the host machine had built the war file versus the environment where the dockerization is trying to run this application, run this jar, might differ. I say that there's a possibility, right? But the whole context of doing the dockerization is, once you develop something, irrespective of whatever it is, you should be able to run that particular code snippet. That's the whole idea of running the docker, or making your application as dockerized. But if you are already building developing the war file on your host machine and taking it forward, that's you're defeating the purpose of docker, right? So that's the piece that we are going to see it how differently we are going in this series of learning. All right, having that said, having this context set, um, what we are going to do, how we are going to do is, maybe what I'll do is, it's going to be we will type in the code as we talk through, right? um, so I'll go to the Spring Starter IO. I'll get the basic Spring application code snippets ready. Then I'm going to use show how to set up the Docker file, right? And then we'll also see a very basic bare minimum REST based endpoints with some, not a fancy UI, right? Not using some Angular or React JS here, right? It's basic, some basic UI where you can do some interaction, a get call and a post call. That's where we'll stick to, right? Where we'll when your user lands onto the home page, that's a get call, and when he performs some action, a small action, there's a post call, right? That's what we will develop, and we will see how to get this deployed onto the container, or run this application into the container. Well, having this said, let's get into the action. So I'll go to the Spring Starter IO, right? And I'll come up with, so I would like to have a Gradle Java, no change here. I'll say this is excellency, and I'll say maybe I'll just say Docker demo, right? Give some demo, this description, right? Demo project for Spring Boot Dockerization, okay? Also Dockerization. So this is what let's really there. I would I would need two dependencies. Maybe I'll need a web dependency, and I will go with the time leaf for the template engine, basically to come up with some UI, right? So I'll go ahead and generate this, and we'll see you back in a minute. Okay, here we go. So I have imported it into the ID, IntelliJ ID, because that's I prefer. It's up to the user's choice, right? Um, so within this, if you see, right, there's lots of the content that got generated from the Spring Boot Starter IO already. So if you see, it's generated the time leaf, it's a starter web dependency, it's been added, right? Now let's go ahead and quickly write a controller where we can expose some of the endpoints. So I'll say into the REST package, I'll say Docker controller, okay? uh, REST controller, just notifying Spring REST. Let's just say request mapping. I'll say Docker. Okay. Then I'll have one get mapping for landing the default whenever the user clicks on this. So public model and view. Oops. So let's say this is a home. Right. I need model map in order to interact with the UI here. Okay. Return not Docker. I'd say home. That's what is going to be mine. And I'll just say some default value when the user lands onto this page, right? We will just display some learn Dockerizing. Okay. Then I'll say here model dot add attribute. Maybe I'll just create some variable called as user goal. Okay, I think I messed it up here. It's not going to be here. Rather, I'm just going to remove it here. So learn Dockerizing. Get rid of this, and here I'm going to return the template, the basic template, right? Then I'm going to have a similar thing for the post mapping. Public model and view. Instead of post, I would say user goal. Also, yeah, let's say create goal, right? So the post mapping is going to be saying user goal. Okay, and same thing, I'll say string user goal. Okay, then I'm going to say model dot add attribute. Yep, return. Yep, that's it. So I'm going to have one basic a controller where there are two, a get mapping where it takes some some content, it return backs with some default value and setting it to this variable called as a user goal, right? Then you have a post operation. When the user performs this post operation, you take that value whatever has been on the UI, get it onto the variable, and you return back to paint it onto the screen at some other place, right? So it's basically the default, I mean, just like any time leaf application looks like, nothing fancy here, right? So going back, now we will quickly create one template so that we will be able to return back to the user. So home, that's what we mentioned. So I will quickly go to the time leaf. I'll get some um, maybe some basic template, right, for the HTML. So okay, so go to the docs, read it online. There should be some template, some code snippet here. Okay, here we go. I think this should be good enough for me to get started. So actually, okay, I think what would be the better thing is, okay, let me take this as string Dockerizing Spring Boot apps. Okay, we'll, I think anyways we need the bootstrap, so what I was thinking is I'll take some bootstrap added, so it becomes a little cleaner. The UI looks a little cleaner, right? So just let's quickly link that sheet here. So I'll go to the read docs. Yeah, I think this should be fair enough for me. So let me copy this and put it into here. Okay, then once you have this, I'll say div tag class is equals to container. That's how we start it off. Then I'll take some pre-built-in templates. Okay, maybe I'll just take something of a model which is a card. Okay, yeah, I think for that matter anything should be okay. Okay, let's stick with this. Okay, so let me copy this card title. I'll say like maybe some heading, right? So I'll say my course goal. Whatever is my course goal, right? I don't need any of them. That's fine. And here I would like to display the dynamic variable data. Let me quickly see how to do the dynamic variable data. So it's dash x dash welcome to a browser state. So this is hash. Okay, This is when sprint instruction. Okay, but whatever is retailed within the model, okay, it's used with a dollar. Okay, but with the dollar, how do I access it? So this is fine. This is fine. Okay, so it's th text. Okay, all right, I got it. So we'll quickly go there. Remove this p, and we'll say th colon text with the value is equals to dollar user goal. I believe that's what is my controller. Perfect. So I have this user goal displayed here, right? Now this is when user lands onto the page. Now I need a similar thing when users do some, for the post mapping or submits. So I'll come up with, okay, yeah, you know what? I'll give some styling here. Sorry, margin bottom. I'll stick with some size. Okay. Similarly, some margin top. Let's do 50 pixels. Okay. Then I'll copy this. That's fine. Now here, um, what is your course goal basically, right? So not my course goal, and I would like to have a text entered here. So to get the text box, there should be some practice. Okay, input group. Okay, I think in the form control. Yeah, I think we can stick with this. This should be good enough for us. So input type is equals to text. Class is equals to this. Yeah, I think I'll just say goal. I'll let enter your goal. This is just a placeholder here, right? With ID, I would like to have one another thing, because for time leaf to work, it needs this property. Okay, so you have a text field entered, right? Then I need some button. Okay, input type is equals to submit. Maybe I'll have some class is equals to. So for the buttons, let me quickly check. We'll take some button group. That could be anything. Okay, we'll stick with this button primary. Okay, so button primary, right? Class is equals to this. I'll need a little styling here. Maybe margin top. I will say 10 px, right? So have the margin top ready. That's it. I think. I think I need to submit it into a form, right? Because this needs a form action. I need to check what is the root context that I set. So it's Docker. Perfect. And then it's user goal. Okay. So go here, user goal. All right. Then method is equals to post. Okay. So this is going to be my form action. Okay. I think we are good with the UI2, right? With this context being set, we now come to the actual one, which is preparing the Docker file. Okay, so let's go ahead and prepare a Docker file. Right. So to do the Docker file, right? So first we will come up with a build stage, because you need to build the application, right? So to do build the application, you need one image for the Gradle, right? So to do that, let's go to the Docker Hub. Let's look at an image that would help us on this. We do not need to sign in, so I can directly search here. Let me go to the Docker Hub, look for the Gradle. Okay, I have the Gradle. Let me look for the specific version, GTK 17. All right, I have this. So let's go with this from Gradle colon 8.13.0 hyphen JDK 17 as build. Okay, then copy dot dot. Now this is an interesting, right? So when you say copy dot dot, right, this dot first dot refers to your host, and the second dot refers to the container. So this dot starts from where the Docker file is. So because this Docker file is here, so when we say dot, all this content which is in this one is to be copied and put it onto the container. In the container wherever the root directory for the container is, right? Now there could be many things that comes into the root directory, right? So in order to segregate them, just to make it look little cleaner, what I'll do is I'll have a working directory created, opt apps. I'll say, like, what is the application? This is a Docker application, so let's go say Docker demo, right? So what this command does is, if this directories does not exist, it goes and creates those directories, and it ensures that you change to them, right? So it's now going into this directory, it's pointing to this working directory. And when you say copy dot, so from your Docker file, wherever your Docker file is, in that Docker file, what are the other files that resides through, right? Copy them and put it into this working directory, because your working directory is also pointing here. So within the Docker demo, you'll get all this data copied. But to increase the readability, I would say, like, something like, say, copy dot, and this way it both are same, like, there's no difference, but only from the readability standpoint I encourage this. Then I'll say run. What is the command that you would like to do? Run gradle clean build, right? Now the build stage is done. The next one is the package stage, right? So for the package stage, I need, again, in order to run the container, right, I need the uh, jdk. So open jdk. I would need again the same thing, right? 17, I think it should be 17 hyphen Oracle. Get them. Okay. So this is, yep, yep. That's good, right? Once this is there, now, because you have to run the container now, right? In order to run the container, so I'll create two variables, because I'll be using them very frequently. Those variables would be like something like, jar name, because the jar name is quite a tedious one. So my jar name is Docker demo. um, okay, I think, you know what, in the coming, maybe we'll see, like, streamline this jar whenever the Docker builds a WAR file. We'll not make it this big lookalike, right? So we'll simplify this jar name, but for now let's stick to this. Okay. Then I need one another one, app home. What is my app home? What is the home of my application? Is this one, right? Having, if there is any further required, maybe we'll create, but to get started, I think I'll be good with this two variables, right? Then I need to ensure that, I point to this working directory. How do I make that? Working directory app underscore home. So I move to this working directory. Now I'm going to copy minus minus from is equals to build. Now what is this? This is basically saying that, from your build stage, whatever the Gradle clean build, the build that was done, right? You copy that and put it into the dollar app underscore home dot, right? So in this location to this dot. Okay. Once that's done, then you'll have to say exec, right, in order to run the container. Sorry, I would say entry point exec java hyphen jar. um, where is my jar? It's going to be in the dollar app underscore home. There's a folder that would be created called as build. Under build, there's a folder called as libs. Under libs, it's going to be with this jar name, right? I think with this, I think, one step away, it's called as expose, right? So by default, Tomcat runs on the 8080 port. Now this line, right, line number 13, expose 8080, it's only purely, like, for the documentation purpose. There's no real essence of it, right? Meaning, even if you leave it like this, it still works. It by default does that. But from readability standpoint, from our documentation, when you look at the Docker file, like, okay, there's this port exposed. Only to increase that readability, you add this particular line. Okay. Now, I see that there is, some unwanted file. If we do not want that to go in, I'll create one another file called as, Docker ignore. Okay. So, oops, I think I just messed it up. Can I rename? Yeah, let me quickly rename. It's not. Yep, it's going to be Docker ignore, right? So I don't want .gradle, and I don't want anything under .gradle subdirectory. IntelliJ usually generates this idea. I think there, so let's not include those two. So dot idea slash star, right? So let me ensure that those are not included. Maybe you can write some comments here. Let's right, ignore any file or directory, and here it's hash ignore any file or directory including subdirectories. Okay, all right. So I think we are good, right? Now we'll just quickly take a look. Like, so this ID we on the host, I just used this to develop an application. What did we do this? What did we develop? We created a controller where there are two mappings available. One is a get mapping, one is a post mapping. Get mapping, whenever the user launches onto the default page, it returns back with this. And whenever user performs some action, we are doing some action. Right, and then you created a docker file. Within this docker file we talked about, like, we are going to run a build. So if you see here, we are not nowhere, we are part of doing anything on the host machine other than developing the code, right? That's something that's different in this content. That's what we are trying to establish here, right? So once this is done, all right, now we will quickly go on to the terminal. Okay, so let's quickly check if we have anything running. So we do not see any content that's been running. So I will go ahead and say docker build. I would say, like, dot, right? What does this do? It looks for, like, where the docker file is, and it kind of creates a random image name to that. So rather than this random image, I'll go with something called as a name. So I'll say, like, docker spring demo. Okay, and I'll give some version to it on this current directory. Okay, let's give it a minute to build the uh, image, right? I'll just quickly pause and come back once the image is ready. Okay, so here we go. The image is ready. Now I think it's our chance to run this application. So I'll say docker run -p 1990. Okay, I'll explain about I believe, like, we all are already aware of this context, like why we do this, but just to quickly walk you through, like, because the container has exposed on 8080, but your host machine could not be able to make an access to it. So I think that's part of your Docker networking. We are already aware of it. So we'll directly go to the image 1.0. So I'm saying, like, Docker run this image, right? Okay, I can see that the application has started. Let's go and say localhost 1990 Docker. Bingo. So when I clicked on this, I got this my course goal, learn Dockerizing, right? That's what we initially, like, give back to the user, right? Now I'll say, like, what is my goal? Learn Docker in depth. Let me just put into this content. Here you go. So it says learn Docker in depth. So we have successfully performed a get operation and a post operation onto this Spring Boot application that has been deployed. um, I'll also quickly show one other thing. Okay, so there's my Docker, this container running. So I'll see if Docker run, not Docker run, exec hyphen it and bin slash dash. So we are within the container now, right? Cd opt apps docker temp. So this is what I just wanted to walk you through, right? So here we see that we did not get this dot id or dot gradle file copied. We have whatever our required content is only available, and this is where, because you set this working directory here, so Docker has ensured that this code runs no matter whatever wherever you give this Docker snippet, and run through it, right? All right. So this is what doing running the Spring Docker, where you are not. It's independent. It's isolated from your host machine, right? This is content series where we just wanted to explain this concept. All right. Thanks for joining. We'll come back with another new content sooner.